Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Should I look at the camera?
Look at me.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Josef Paradis. I've lived in Nanaimo basically my whole life. I work at Triple T's Party Rentals. I'm 19 years old. I'm a first year at UBC and I play rugby.
Oh, what are your current interests and passions right now?
One of the big ones would be rugby. I'd be interested in learning how to be better with money because I'm awful with money. Yeah, and then just generally based off like my degree at UBC, I'm pretty interested in like kinesiology and that kind of area. Yeah.
Okay, next topic is your current path. What are you doing currently in terms of, I know you touched a little bit about it already, in terms of university or alternative routes, sports maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So currently I'm about to start my first year of university at the University of British Columbia, taking a bachelor's of kinesiology. I play rugby on the team there. I'm on junior varsity scholarship, potentially getting bumped up to varsity scholarship. For the meantime, my main path really is just going to be probably university and rugby. And then after that, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. What motivated you to go down this path of rugby? It sounds like rugby is a really big thing for you as well as kinesiology, correct?
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what motivated me. I just kind of liked it once I started doing it. It's just kind of how things like worked out. I've always had a pretty big interest in like sciences going through elementary and high school. And then kinesiology is just kind of like a fun way to get it kind of more involved in the sports world, in my opinion. Those are cool. I've seen a million bikers today. Hey, sorry, what was the part of the question again?
What motivated you to go down this path?
Oh, right. And then specifically probably for like going to UBC with that path was I met the coach at one of the U18 Canada tryouts last year, and he just kind of like heard I was interested and then was very like keen on helping me get into the university if it's what I wanted. So I just thought it was a great opportunity, so I would take it. And then it's just kind of worked out well since then. It's kind of random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing a little bit about how you got into rugby already from the past, as I'm friends with you, you played soccer for a bit, and then the transition into rugby. Can you talk a little bit about your transition? I know there was a little bit of weightlifting as well in between there.
Yeah. So what happened is I played soccer up until I'm pretty sure I was maybe 15 or 16, and then COVID kind of ruined it for me because we did so much fitness that I just kind of got over it, and I kind of fell out of love with the sport. And I had recently tried rugby, and I just decided to just kind of wing it and quit and just go full rugby. And that was also partially part of the influence of Pat, my weightlifting coach, who I started weightlifting with during COVID. And then he plays rugby, and he's one of the coaches. So that was probably the biggest influence.
Okay, the next topic is goals and aspirations. Are you somebody that believes in having dreams?
Yeah, no, I definitely believe that it's honestly even a good thing to have those, because when you can like kind of think about what your actions are going to lead to later in the future, it'll probably help you like stay committed to kind of stringing those actions together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to set some goals for myself once I get to university.
For sure. In terms of dreams, are there any dreams you have or had? And these can be realistic, unrealistic. You know, I wanted to play in the NBA at one point in my life. Right?
Yeah.
So whatever those look like.
I don't know. For a while, I wanted to be a pro soccer player, and then that kind of faded away. And I go through phases of wanting to go get drafted to the MLR, which is the North American Rugby League. And I still think that'd be pretty cool. I'm not necessarily pushing for it like as a dream, but it's something that I keep in mind. And then just another dream of mine would just be to be like very financially comfortable when I'm older, just because it removes a lot of stress from your life. And it'd be nice to provide for my children, like my parents have provided for me.
And then you touched a little bit on setting goals. Do you have any short-term goals here that you want to achieve in the next year or two?
Yeah, short-term goals, quit vaping, maybe quit using nicotine in general, not flunk out of university, shouldn't be that hard. That's pretty much it, honestly. Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to the nicotine, if you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's just kind of pointless in my opinion, and I've just been doing it for a long time, and I am starting to notice that my lungs are not quite as healthy as a lot of other players. So I'd just like to make a change for the better, and it's just bad for your health. It's a high school habit I haven't kicked.
And then what about long-term goals within the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, that would probably be if I'm enjoying my university experience, graduating, and hopefully also actually using my degree, because I might as well if I went for 4 years and paid all that money. 5 years from now, I'd like to have a good idea of like how I'm gonna set up the rest of my life 5 years from now. So I'd like to take a goal of mine would probably be to spend the next 5 years like exploring what it is that I want from life, and then putting that like to use and like actually following down the path. Yeah.
What do you want your life to look like in the future as of right now?
Probably just like healthy, organized, I don't know, good-spirited. It's pretty much the only things I really think I want. Yeah.
And how do you see yourself achieving these goals now? You've talked about the university a little bit, achieving the health and all that, both short and long-term goals.
Probably just being more accountable. The last year since I graduated high school, I've kind of just done my thing, not really cared about much. And it'd just be nicer to have a better plan of what I'm doing, and just hold myself a bit more accountable. That'd probably be the only real thing I think I need.
For sure. And you touched your last year, especially after graduating high school. I know you have a little cool story that not a lot of people have done. Do you mind touching a little bit on that and sharing your story?
Yeah, of course. So in February, I moved to New Zealand. I moved to Wellington in the lower Hutt, and I lived there for 6 months doing roofing and playing rugby for the Hutt Boy Marist Rugby Football Club. And I just moved back 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, how was it out in New Zealand? Can you share a little bit about what living out there was like and working and playing?
So living out there was pretty cool. The climate is pretty much just like Vancouver Island, so it was like a change because everything's different, but it's all the same. It was interesting to get the different cultural experience, especially because there's a lot of people from the Pacific Islands in Wellington. The rugby there is completely different than here. There's a lot more culture and a lot more players and a lot more talent. Yeah. And I'm not going to be a roofer for the rest of my life. I know that. Yeah.
Is there any, in terms of good stories, bad stories, funny stories that you wanna share?
I'm trying to think. Well, I went pretty hard on the weekends. I'm probably just going to leave it at that. Yeah. Too hard most of the time. And a really cool story is, we went 15-0 in the season, and we got a bonus point every single regular season game and won 2 trophies and a shield, which is pretty unreal.
For those that don't understand the significance of 2 trophies and a shield, I don't know what a shield is. Can you explain a little bit as to what that is? Yeah,
so the shield for my game is in a lot of rugby leagues, they'll have rivalries between teams, but they're not just like a rivalry as in like a banter rivalry. They're actually quite significant to how the season folds out. So my rival was Petone Rugby Football Club. It's called the Battle of the Bridge because there's only a bridge that separates those 2 areas of town. And so if you win that game, you win the McBain Shield. And you hold on to it until the other person wins it back. So they've got a few of those even with the Nanaimo Hornets. There's the Times Cup, which is if you are the best team on the island. So that's just kind of like a bonus, but it's really usually important to the club just because it's such a high stakes game. And then the 2 trophies would just be winning first round. So we do a round robin and we won every single game. So based off of points from the regular season, we got the first trophy, the Paris Memorial Trophy. And then when you go finish the first round, based off of the seedings from that, you just play the playoffs. And then if you win the playoffs, you get the, I think, Wayne E. Kelly Memorial Cup or something like that. But yeah.
So, along your journey so far, obviously there's been positive and negative moments.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite parts that you've experienced along your journey of life so far in general? This could be when you were 2 years old, all the way up until you're 19 now. So
Yeah. One of the best things I've kind of learned about that so far is probably just like the importance of relationships with other people. I think that weighs a lot on the way people live their life or how they're feeling or anything like that, and just spending quality time with people that you appreciate. Like that's mostly because I missed everyone back home when I lived in New Zealand because I didn't know anybody. Not necessarily anything that like comes to mind for like specifics, but just things like laying in bed at night and not really having anyone to talk to or anything would be like based off of that kind of perspective. But for the most part, no, nothing really comes to mind. I don't really take shit very seriously.
Well, on the flip side of that, what are some challenges you faced so far in your journey?
Definitely a challenge for myself, I'd say, is that I struggle to, I got really bad FOMO, and that will sometimes negatively impact my academic or athletic performance, because anytime that there's like a party or something, I can't say no because I know I shouldn't go because I got awful FOMO. Other obstacles, not necessarily. I don't find that I have a lot of obstacles in my life. I'm pretty well set up with the support of my parents.
You mentioned a little bit about the FOMO, and that being, I guess, one of your main challenges that you face with.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself overcoming this challenge? I don't know, moving to New Zealand must have been very tough.
Yeah, I was going to say moving to New Zealand actually helped me kind of overcome it already a little bit. I feel a lot more comfortable just like doing things for myself and not trying to constantly impress everybody. Feel a little bit better about like finding value from my own thoughts and not from other people's. But yeah, I would just say like continuing through my university and like rugby experience, I would say that would just naturally take effect as long as I pay attention.
What are some of the biggest obstacles you anticipate in the near future here for yourself?
Definitely school. At UBC, I've heard that you get graded very hard, and I don't have very much motivation to do homework, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. But you can always join a trade and get a ticket, so I don't know if that's the way I should think about it, but it will work. For the next kind of foreseeable future, I'm definitely going to have a tough time trying to secure a spot on our number one team at UBC for rugby. But I think that in a year's time, I'll feel a lot more comfortable about my selection for the team.
Yeah.
And just, financially, I didn't save any money from New Zealand, spent it all, and I haven't saved any money since I got back. So I'm pretty much going into university completely flat broke, so that's probably going to be a challenge. But as long as my parents pay for my school, I'll probably find a way to do it.
I guess you just touched on it a little bit yourself there. Your support system, who are the most influential people in your life as of right now?
Definitely my mom, my dad, and my brother. And then not anyone specific out of my friends, but probably all of them. Coaches for sure as well. But the main things just being probably my parents and my brother. And I guess just like myself, just trying to keep it all together by myself.
Yeah. How do they support you?
Financially, they support me. They support me emotionally very well. These are pretty broad categories, but that's pretty much all I really need from them. So that's how I'd say that they support me.
Looking back at this past year you've had, what are you most proud of?
I'm pretty proud of myself for moving to New Zealand by myself and taking the chance and not bitching out moving home either, because it was definitely very intimidating for at least the first month and a half or two. But then once I got into the roll of things, I found it a little bit better. But that's probably the biggest thing I'm proud of the last year.
Yeah.
The only other things that would be part of it would be just going a few years back, would just be like how quickly I progressed through the levels of rugby in Canada.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I know you had quite a journey trying out for I think it was the U20 Can team, correct?
It is the U18 team.
U18 team.
But this year I should hopefully have a spot in the U20 team. We'll see. It was my first full season of playing rugby, and I got selected to go to the Western Canadian camp to do one of the 2 tryouts for U18 Team Canada for 7s and 15s, and then I got selected to go participate at the Team Canada West versus Team Canada East camp. And then from there on I got cut. But I got longlisted for the 7s team and the 15s team.
How was that journey? That must have been was it something you anticipated or something that caught you a little bit off guard?
Definitely.
So early into your career, right?
Definitely something that caught me off guard, especially because I didn't even play provincial last year. I just played club and then regional. And then I got selected for the U18 BC team as a U17, but I was on a trip in Germany, so I couldn't attend the tournament. And then out of nowhere, one of my friends, Ben Martin, just contacted me and told me that I would probably be getting an email about a tryout because he talked to the coach at UBC about me trying out.
If there's anything you could do differently, what would you do differently?
I'm going to contradict myself with this statement, but I would say to start off with, I don't really like to think about that because you can't really do anything differently. And despite things that might not be great, like I still appreciate where I am in life at this moment. And if I did do anything differently, I wouldn't be in the same place. So I don't really like to think about things like that because you can't change them. But I've definitely made a couple mistakes in the past that I probably didn't need to make. But I'm pretty stubborn, so I don't really learn without making the mistake first. I'm not necessarily going to touch on those mistakes, though.
In terms of the future, what are you most excited for in your future here?
I'm excited to go to UBC, and I'm excited to be part of the rugby program specifically. It's definitely a little bit stressful. Just got back 3 weeks ago from New Zealand, so I'm just kind of adapting to being back at home, and in 7 days I have to move into dorms at UBC and start courses a couple days later. So I'm excited, but it's going to be stressful. And just the opportunities that will come from playing rugby at UBC is what I'm excited for.
And then on the flip side again, what are you most worried about in your future?
Well, I'm nervous about my transition into UBC, but I know that it will just be another kind of learning curve, and they probably can't kick me out for at least 2 weeks, so I'll have 2 weeks to figure out how to not do that. And then I'm a little bit worried about how I'm going to manage to pay for anything without any money, but I'll find a way to sell something or whatever.
Personal growth wise, how do you think you've changed over the last year as a person?
I definitely gained a lot of life experience. One of the main ones just being how to provide for myself while I was in New Zealand, how to kind of exist with myself. I had a lot of trouble being alone before, and now I don't actually mind being alone. It's good to enjoy your time with yourself because you're stuck with yourself for your entire life. Physically, I've changed quite a bit. I grew a mustache, got a bunch of tattoos, got a lot heavier, grew my hair out.
How many tattoos do you think you have as of right now?
I'm pretty sure I have 10 tattoos.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, probably the one that's on my calf that I got done a few days before I left New Zealand.
Do you want to show it? You want to get up on the table?
Yeah, sure. Stand on top of it here. So my tattoo is called a kiritui, and it is a basically white person version of a tamoko, which is a traditional Maori tattoo. You usually get it to represent your roots from what areas you're from in New Zealand. Are you smirking, bro? I'm gonna laugh.
It's okay.
And there's a typical pattern that's usually involved that is ferns, and it's kind of where it curls around the end. and I got mine customized to myself. I got a warrior pattern for rugby, and I got a family tree done that's called a whakepapa, and I got some ferns that never stopped growing on both sides of my leg to represent my personal development while I was in New Zealand and from now on.
What would you say are some of your best qualities? And this could be personality-wise, looks-wise, whatever that is to you.
I would say personality-wise, I'm pretty easy to get along with for the most part. I'm generally pretty accepting as well. Everybody's different, and that's just the way it is. Give looks a solid 7 out of 10, so it's not necessarily a strength or a weakness. And I'd say I have pretty good work ethic, whether that's related to not necessarily school, but actually working or sports or the gym.
And then what are some personal qualities or skills you wish to develop over the next year or two?
I wish to develop a better sense of independence, and I wish to develop a better sense of responsibility and yeah, just responsibility probably. I'm a very irresponsible person.
Societal views. How do you think society views the path you've chosen, and does your path fit into societal norms necessarily?
I would say that, especially in the older generation, a lot of society would support my decision to go to university. A lot of society would probably also support my decision to play sports.
Do you feel supported or judged by society for your choices, and does that bother you at all?
For the most part, I feel supported by my choices. Another thing that I would say I've kind of noticed is since I've got a bit more coverage with tattoos, there's some people that aren't very supportive of that, or even just people that I've talked to about tattoos. They wouldn't necessarily have a problem with me, but they would tell me that they don't appreciate when people get tattoos. But at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. Yeah, I feel for the most part they view me as being like acceptable. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone considering to choose a similar path as you? You're taking a gap year, going to New Zealand, UBC after. What advice would you give someone?
Some advice about a gap year I'd give someone is it's definitely a good opportunity if you're willing to take it. There's always time to go to university after just 1 year. It'll probably fly by. It flew by for me. They would probably want to make sure that they are either admitted to a university or have some kind of prior commitment, because I was not very interested in going back to university pretty much up until like a few days ago. After I took my gap year, just because I found it really hard that when you are making money and you can spend it on pretty much whatever you want, it's pretty hard to want to go to not making any money and spending all your money on school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main advice I give them.
And then what's the best advice you've received so far?
Probably just to stay consistent and keep in touch with my responsibilities. One of the main ones being like athletically, my parents really keep me in touch with keeping my body in shape and not doing bad things to it. And then, yeah, just committing your time to complete those goals that you have set, because they're not going to do it themselves. Main things I'd probably want to say over the next 2 years to myself is